Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be here with you today again and to tell you our Bible story. Now, as you probably remember, every time I tell you the story, I ask you some questions. And I want you to shout the answer as loud as you can when you know the answer, okay? So let's try it. Today, our story is about Joshua and the Israelites. Who do you guys think the Israelites were? Were they A, Santa's elves, B, God's people, C, Boy Scouts, or D, the Avengers? Nice. It's B. The Israelites were God's chosen people, and Joshua was the leader of the Israelites. Now, God told the Israelites that he was going to give them some land, and they called this land the Promised Land. And this was a place that they could go and they could build their homes and start families and build their nation. That's where our story starts. You see, Joshua was leading the Israelite people through the Promised Land, and they were taking over the different cities so that they could build their homes. They came to a city called Jericho. What do you guys think happened when they got to Jericho? Is it A, they never got there, they got lost? B, they had a big dance party? C, they got there and the gates were closed so they couldn't enter? Or D, they found a bunch of cute puppies? Nice job. The answer is C. They got to Jericho and the gates were closed and they couldn't enter. So Joshua went to talk to God to see what he should do. God told me that he was going to give us Jericho, but he gave me kind of some weird instructions on how we were going to get it. He said that for 6 days, we were going to walk around the city. Then on the 7th day, we'd walk around the city 7 times. And at the end of that 7th time, we're supposed to play our trumpets and yell really loud, and the walls would just fall down around Jericho. It seems kind of crazy, but I think God has a plan. Now, that's a really weird thing for God to ask the Israelites to do. And I know if I was one of the Israelites, I would be questioning and say, how is this going to help us take over Jericho? Marching around the city probably isn't going to do much. What do you guys think the Israelites did next? Did they A, trust God and walk around the walls like he asked them to? B, decided to give up and take a nap? C, they all went home and watched SpongeBob? Or D, decided to do some spring cleaning? You guys are so smart. Of course, they listened to God and they marched around the walls. Even though God's plan seemed crazy, they chose to trust him. They walked around the city for 6 days, once per day. Can you guys march with me? Stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then, on the 7th day, they marched 7 times around the city. Let's stand up and let's do that marching too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, that didn't take us very long to march 7 times, but it probably took the Israelites all day to march around the city that many times. Then, on the last time, they did what God asked them to do. They blew their trumpets and shouted as loud as they could. Do you guys think you can do that with me? On the count of 3, either pretend to play a trumpet or shout super loud, okay? 1, 2, 3. Whoa, that was really crazy. Thank you guys for doing that with me. Now, what do you think happened after they blew the trumpet and shouted? Was it A, nothing happened? B, all of the trumpets broke and they lost their voice? C, it started raining? Or D, the walls of Jericho fell down? Good job! The walls of Jericho fell down, and the Israelite people were able to go into Jericho and take over the city just like God said they'd be able to. God asked the Israelites to do something really crazy. Marching around a city, it didn't make any sense to them. But they chose to trust God and his plan for them. I struggle to trust God sometimes, and I'd love to share with you a time in my life where I thought God's plan was crazy, but I chose to trust him. You see, I grew up in a state called Iowa, which is about a 10-hour drive away from here. And when I was in college, I felt like God was asking me to move to Colorado. But it didn't really make sense to me. I didn't know anybody in Colorado. All of my friends and family and the people that I loved were in Iowa. It actually made me sad sometimes to think about coming here to Colorado where I didn't know anyone. But I knew that God had a plan for me, and even though it seemed crazy, I decided to move here anyways. And it was one of the best choices I'd ever made. I met new friends. I met people who became so close that they felt like family. I met you guys. I'm here telling you the story today because I decided to follow God. And now even some of my family are joining me here in Colorado because of the decision that I made. God always has a plan for you, and even when it seems like he's asking you to do something crazy, whether it's marching around a city, moving to a new state, or maybe just loving your neighbors, he's going to take care of you, and things are going to turn out okay. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next time.